Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is March 18th, and today's episode brings us an update on the tokenomics and its progress, the changes from Samus and Val. We're also going to be talking about a new report that's out of the GMC, and Joe has some information about the smartnode stack version 2, and much more than that. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Right, so we're starting here with Samus, and he is talking about different ways in which we could potentially release his and Val's tokenomics proposal. And this is a discussion that's been ongoing in the new tokenomics RPIP pre-forum thread, which has kind of become the home of tokenomics discussions recently, and trying to figure out what the next steps for that will be. So here, Samus says that there's a few different scenarios in which he can see the new tokenomics being implemented. The one is that all of the tokenomics changes happen in one release at the same time. B would be that there's some stuff that would happen in like mega pools, remove operator gated upgrades, LEB4s, RPL burn, and universal variable commission would come as one part, and then we'd have bonding curves and forced exits as the second part. Then scenario C, we have mega pools, remove operator gated upgrades, LEB4s, remove or lower minimum RPL requirement, and then the second part would be RPL burn, UVC, bonding curves and forced exits. Then scenario D, which would then have 3 releases potentially. So here we would have mega pools, remove operator gated upgrades, LEB4s, remove or lower minimum RPL requirements. Then second part would be burn, RPL burn and universal variable commission. And the third part would be bonding curves and forced exits. So those are all the different scenarios that Samus had in mind. But then of course this starts off a discussion, and there was basically, like, we could see that, you know, this is where the discussion was kind of going now about what the upgrades might look like. And people were kind of asking questions about what would go into the different parts and whether it's feasible to have one part before a second part, and what the ordering should be, what the dependencies would look like. So, you know, I really recommend you go and have a look at some of the discussions that were here. And then Val took the conversation to the forum. So now the conversation is on the forum. So here we have tokenomics rework drafts. So he says, "Hi all, I wanted to get a next step towards the tokenomics revamp." He says this follows on from the work of Val and Samus. So he's talking about himself in the third person, presented at Denver Liftoff. And you can watch the video and read the detailed proposal. He says either of these is my recommended starting point if you're new to the ideas, as well as some community refinement in the tokenomics RPIP's pre-forum era thread, which is what we were just kind of looking at, but a different part of it. So he says that they think that there's going to be a total of 8 different RPIPs here. And then one is an info RPIP to guide folks through the others. A couple are very simple and some are more complex. So he said he suggests starting at the info RPIP that he mentioned, and there's a link that's going to be RPIP 49. So here he says this is my little teaser from that. So if we have a look at them, he says the components currently being advocated for. So one of them is bond curves. This is perhaps the most critical component as it unlocks dramatically higher capital efficiency. Note that the ability to penalize at the node level is also specified in this RPIP. So bond levels, the bond curves, this means that, you know, your first validator will be 4 ETH, the second will be 4 ETH, and after that it would be 1.5 ETH going forwards. That we've talked about quite a lot. And then mega pools. So he said this is needed for the bond curve changes, otherwise gas would be prohibitive. For example, for the 1.5 ETH mini pools, you know, you'd be paying a big percentage of your potential income in gas fees just for getting it started. So mega pools would make that easier. It would make your whole node have one smart contract instead of every validator having different smart contracts. The next is forced exits. Val says this is needed for the bond curve changes to enable node level penalties to be effective. So one of the reasons why we can go down to LEB 1.5s is because the person would already have 8 ETH of collateral before that. That seems to be like a good amount of ETH to be penalizable. However, you need to be able to punish any backed actors. and you punish that with forced exits. So you need forced exits to be able to go to those low-level collaterals. So number 4 then is RPL burn. So Val says this is the primary value capture mechanism being proposed. So going from an indirect value capture to a direct value capture. And then we have universal variable commission. This is a mechanism that allows for splitting revenue between various targets, including voters, to keep our governance robust. Note that there's been some thinking about how to find an appropriate share for node operators, as well as some future-looking settings that are not intended to be used immediately. Basically, as the state of maturity happens in a rocket pool, hits 22% of stake or whatever, then you can start tweaking some of these numbers to either give more to node operators or give less to node operators, depending on how much stake you want online. Next, we have remove operator gated upgrades. Val says this is desirable eventually, since it reduces the number of things that need to be tested going forward. The thought is we should include it as quickly as possible. And I think what this means, I need to look into a little bit more, so I'm sorry about that, is basically like, how we have 16 ETH validators, and it's up to the validators whether they want to go down to LEB8 or not. Well, with this one, it would kind of make it mandatory instead of leaving the choice to the node operator. But I'm not sure, I need to dig into that idea a little bit more, so I'm sorry about that if I'm not explaining it properly. And then here we have lowered mini pool requirements. So the Val says this A enables a new size of mini pools with 4 ETH bond from the node operator, and B removes the RPL staking requirement to create mini pools. If not released alongside UVC, our ETH commission is changed to make these new pools only slightly more productive than the current 8 ETH pools. It says 1 requires 2 and 3, and 4 and 5 require each other. So there's some ideas here of what the dependencies are. So Val here then has a to-do post. He says we need some clarity on how number 7 interacts with number 2. One option is to remove number 7 entirely and include it as number 2 as a different setting for different stages. And then he says, what's the plan for the inflation, at least in the short term, because the RPL is of course currently inflating at 5% a year. The idea is that the inflation would stop and we would just have burn, but there might be a period where we have inflation and burn happening at the same time. And then next he says naming clarity for validators in current style contracts and megapool style contracts. Thus far, my knowledge was legacy mini pools, base mini pools, and satellite mini pools, but I don't love it. So Val's already thinking through some of these things. Samus here says, I would be curious to hear from the team how long they would expect each release to take under the scenarios listed here. He says, for example, how much longer would release 1 take under scenario C compared to scenario BD? Would it take roughly twice as long or delay things by 6 months if we wanted to wait for UVC and burn to be included? He said, I'd also like to hash out how to handle RPL emissions, inflations, especially in the short term. And then he says, here's an example of inflation options and discussions. He says, present day, the DAO gets 1.5% of inflation, 30% of the total 5%. He says, option A is to scale down with the market share growth, replaced by ETH commissions instead. He says, for node operator, they currently get 3.5% of RPL inflation, which is 70% of the 5% total. So it says option A is to keep that 3.5% indefinitely. Option B is to set it to 0 as soon as the UVC and burn is released. Option C is to scale it down with the market share growth. So like go down to 3% as soon as the UVC burn is released, and then lower down by 1% for each major market share milestone. So go down to 2% after crossing 5% of market share, lower it to 1% after crossing 10% of market share, and lower it to 0% after crossing 15% of market share. I actually like option C, but I need to dig into those options a lot more. And then with eligibility, like, present day that is RPL staked has to be more than or equal to 10% borrowed ETH. Option A is keep it at RPL staked, 10% more or equal to 10% borrowed ETH. Option B is to lower it to 4.3% borrowed ETH. And that number was worked out to for reasons, but I forgot what the reasons were. And then it says this could be used for LEB4s to keep the same RPL exposure requirements as LEB8s. Yeah, that's what it works. Is like, so each validator would then have the same amount of RPL as it does now. Sorry, no, each is different from that. Each node operator for each 8 ETH of validators they start, they need to have 2.4 ETH of RPL, so then it would go down. So if you had one LE before, it would just be 1.2 ETH per validator of that. But I'm not sure how I feel about that. And then option C is to change the scale directly with borrowed ETH, and all node operators receive RPL emissions determined by your borrowed ETH divided by total borrowed ETH. And RPL inflation is used here to further incentivize node operators, also providing a path for ETH-only node operators to earn access to governance. So there's some options here as well. So Langas then replied, which is really great to see. He says, "Thank you for putting this together, Valdorf. From the team's perspective, we are kicking off workshops this week to break down each of the RPIPs. This is so that we socialize across the team, and B, can provide feedback, get an idea of sizing and complexity to facilitate estimation." It says we can work on the estimation and timeline in parallel to the governance process. Bear in mind there is still Houston work going on. There's balancing act to get that out and dedicate time to scoping these RPIPs. The Houston work should ease off in the next 2 weeks. In the meantime, we will run these workshops. So that's really exciting. And then he says, Langas goes on to say, "Kane and I have discussed the potential release scenarios and have a preferred candidate, but we need to break it down further and get the rest of the team's input to give the answer. We'll do that in the workshops over the next couple of weeks." So it's really exciting that there's progress happening. If you are listening to this and if you had an idea for your own tokenomics proposal, I'll be frank, you're running out of time to get eyes on this, because I'm just putting that out there. And that's what we've already covered. Okay, so moving on from the tokenomics work, we had this amazing report released by Shfryn, which was about the GMC's Grants and Bounties Management Committee and all the work that has gone into the GMC from January 2023, which was rewards period 1, all the way through to February 2024, which is the most recent completed rewards period that finished a few weeks ago. So we've got a timeline and major events. We've got applications, funding allocations, treasury. So increase in applications. We've got the background, data analysis, and the goals of the GMC. And then we've got breakdowns of those as well. So here, it says the RPIP 26 went through in August 23. We've got subcommittees set up in 23 as well. September 23, the GMC made their own server in October 23. In November 23, we got the new roster for the GMC's year 2. And then in January 24, we got the rapid research, which went ahead. And that was actually really good because it set up a new way of doing work for the community, which was exciting. Then we've got a breakdown of all the different numbers of applications we had, but also grants, bounties, retro applications, and how many of them was successful. So one of the things that we have here is, we have an average 15 per month, but the first 3 months there were, the first 3 cycles there were the quarterly cycles instead of the monthly cycles. So maybe that data can be cleaned up a little bit, but you can just see how many applications come in every month, which is really, really cool to see. Application breakdown here as well. We've got grants versus bounties versus retros. So about 57% of applications are grant applications, with about 35% of applications being retro and about 7% being bounty applications. And then we can see over time that, in the beginning we were getting a lot more retro, but it seems like it's gotten to be a bit less since then. But in the beginning, we were also getting more bounties, and it looks like the bounties have kind of dried up a little bit as well. But the grant amounts are still coming through. And there were a couple of big retro requests this month. So that's kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. And then there's application summary. So here Shfryn wrote out a summary of what it's like to get the different applications, what it all means. Next, we've got a funding allocation. So here we have development tools, which we've spent nearly $300,000 on those. Governance tools, we've spent nearly $240,000 on those. The marketing tools, we've spent about $300,000 on those. And public goods tools, we've spent not a dollar amount, but we've got a percentage amount, which is around 5%. So I think that's somewhere around $50,000 on Public's good tools, but there's no dollar amount attached to that. So we've got, it's $51,750. So on the left side, you can see that those numbers are there, and they can tell you about how it's broken it down as well. So there's some really good information there. So that's fantastic. And then there's a lot more detail over here about how it's all been allocated and where it's all been going, which is really clear to see here with the way Shfryn's presented the information as well. And then you can see how the treasury amounts have lined up over the year and a half, or well, just less than a year and a half that we've been doing it. And of course, as this is an RPL amount as well, so it's not a dollar amount, so you can see how it's gone up and down depending on that. Here, total amount of balance data, we've got balance amounts at different time periods and how much has changed and what the inflows are and what the outflows are. And then we've got a treasury summary here as well. So he says it's evident that the GMC possesses a substantial treasury that remains largely untapped. However, we're nearing the point of spending close to the monthly amount received. So what's happening now is that the outlays are about the same as the inlays. So it might be that we start eating into that 54,000 RPL that we have. However, one of the main things is that the range of the RPL's price has gone from $18 at its low to $47 at its high, and that makes an impact on how much RPL comes in and goes out from the treasury. So it's something to keep an eye on. So here, Shfryn then has some goals for what the GMC should be doing, and we have identifying marketing opportunities, utilizing bounty levers, level processes, and recurring retro awards, and rolling rapid research about different things that we want people to work on. So he says, what we have is current average 15 applications per month, but what we want is 30. We want to double them basically. The current outflow is around 3,300. We want that to increase to 6,600 RPL. And if RPL's price goes up, then that'll be quite hard to do. And then the current balance is about 55,000 RPL, 54,100, 200. And what we want is that to go down to about 17,000 RPL in 1 year's time. So 1 year ahead, this is what Shfryn looks like. He says, the GMC spent the first year developing processes in order to facilitate large workload. Now they can focus on optimizing treasury effectiveness. By implementing the strategies outlined in this report, page 12, the GMC can strive to double its applications, thereby maximizing the effectiveness of the treasury. So Shfryn did a really great job putting this report together. So kudos goes to Shfryn. And I actually really like the content of this. So thanks, Shfryn, for putting the work in, for getting that done. Okay, next we are going back to the Discord, and we have some updates from Joe here. So Joe got into a conversation with Active Scott, saying we haven't formally met, but I'm the dude working on smartnode version 2, which you may or may not have heard of. I'm in the process of migrating your Docker prune pull request, and have some stuff I want to run by you when we have a sec. So basically, Active Scott has worked on a new tool that will prune the Docker containers for your smartnode stack. And what they'll do is kind of clean it all up and make it a little bit easier to run. So they got kind of into a discussion about how it works and what it's looking like. And Joe was kind of like talking about smartnode versions 2 and what it's all working like. So he said, I'm porting your pull request functions. So if you're looking for them and their signatures have randomly changed, you can't find them. That's why. So then he's talking about like some other stuff here as well. So then they're going back and forth and asking about how data should be moving back and forward and like what's happening with that and whether Active Scott can help. And Joe says that he is working on it. They don't have a roadmap, but pretty close to at least being an alpha release, so we can start testing against it. He says he's doing the final merge from Houston right now, so they're working on all the different things to get ready for alpha release, which is really cool. So Active Scott says, well, let me know if there's anything I can do to make your life less difficult. I'm happy to accommodate. He says, I'm curious about the scope of version 2.2. What I saw the node manager call, but it sounds like version 2 is more separate from that. Again, if there's summary somewhere, I'd happy to read that. Joe says there's nothing in terms of literature, roadmap, or anything I can link you to really. It's something that I'm going to have to start writing very shortly though, because I'm almost at an alpha release. He says the TLDR is a complete rewrite of Rocket Pool Go, which is the bindings for the Rocket Pool contracts, which is now less of a one-to-one binding and more of a dev-friendly with 100% more multi-core support on everything. And he says the smartnode, which has an actual HTTP API instead of the Docker exec nonsense on the API container, among lots more. And he says the node manager core, which is the core of the smartnode daemon, pulled out for other projects like node sets hyperdrive to leverage. So then there was just some like discussion back and forth about some more of the technical details. So if you're interested in reading those, give this discussion a read, because there's some really good information in there for you. Okay, next we are going to be talking about the Vote Merchandise Art Store Art Contest. So this finished, and here we've got a list of the winners. So there's this Rocket Pool Rainbow Astronaut shirt that came first, and then there's this astronaut with like flying rocket emojis behind that came second. The word art Rocket Pool in many different forms. Word art came third in the shape of the Ethereum logo. And then we had this other rocket with like an alien planet in fourth. The Rocket Pool astronaut with the logo kind of flying in different directions. And then there's Stake Your ETH rewards with an astronaut kind of going fishing. And then there's a smooth operator and My Node Your ETH marriage t-shirt as well, which is really cool. I like some of the art on there. And then here we've got another couple as well, which is Stake Decentralized SOAR and join the biggest decentralized staking pool. Next we have one for the smoothie, and then we have one for what is Rocket Pool. We have the ASCII art next as well, and I think this is the last one with the astronaut in the pool with the rocket taking off. So it's Rocket Pool. So there's some really good submissions there. I don't think the rest of them won, so that's fine. And the voting is closed, and the winners will be followed up to get their prize money and further information if that is needed. So thank you to Dr. Doofus for setting all that up, and thank you to all the contributors for submitting their artwork, and congratulations to the winners. They get $100 for each entry. Okay, moving away from Rocket Pool next, we've got some news from Diva here. So there's some discussion going back and forth on the Diva operator testnet thread on their Discord, and it looks like they are ready for the next release of the testnet. So people are just kind of like wondering about how things are going and what's going on, and then they're saying that they've got the new rebuild for Holesky, and that's correct. So then we had an announcement here from Prada saying finally the much awaited Diva Holesky testnet is here and validators are being created. You can find a new version for the operator user interface 24.3.1 and the Diva client 24.1.0, both in their respective Docker Hub repositories. It says since we're running a brand new network to run this testnet, you must stop all previous containers with Docker Compose down, delete everything in the Diva Alpha net folder, and then follow the process to install Diva from scratch. So then there's the docs there that you can follow as well. And then they also have a DApp node package that you can follow. And it says, once again, thank you. We're looking forward to seeing you discuss this release in the operator testnet channel. So Diva is now on Holesky. So good job for them. It looks like they're getting closer and closer to mainnet every day. And I think the best case estimate is like the 6 weeks away, but it might be like up to 3 months. So when I find out anything about Diva going live, I will definitely let you know. Okay, next we've got some craziness coming out of Solana. So for those of you who are following crypto at the moment, you know that areas of the crypto market have gone batshit insane. And one of those is like this idea of pre-sale tokens on Solana. Well, this is what's been happening for the last couple of days, and it kind of reached fever pitch today, where people were just posting an address on Twitter, and then within a matter of minutes, within a matter of 30 minutes in one case, people were depositing tens or many tens of millions of dollars of Solana tokens into those, thinking that they were going to get an allocation of tokens for that. Basically, it's kind of like an ICO, but like a really, really informal ICO, and like just a total hodgepodge. But anyway, this one, Slurf, gathered up $10 million. And with that $10 million, the person who was trying to set it up, Slurfsol, set up the liquidity pools and stuff, for the tokens, accidentally burned all the tokens, So $10 million of Sol tokens were burned because of this. So that was absolute trash. But even then, I think the token has gone up to like a $900 million market cap, which is just staggering, absolutely staggering. I think that's the case. But there are many other cases as well where there's some really like weird stuff happening. So Surfy says, once I went back to Solana 2's website and burned the LP, not noticing I had burned the tokens just before. The biggest problem here is I don't have $10 million to refund to pre-sellers. I've been up for 3 days preparing for this and fumbled at the finish line. And then there was some other Dexter protocol as well, which is some AI token that launched, and they raised $30 million in 30 minutes before the person was begging them to stop depositing more. So it's just like, it's really crazy out there, and people are already starting to get burned, but they're going to get much more burned. So please be careful if you're getting involved in any of these weird pre-sale things. Okay, finally, I'm going to finish up with some Rocket Fuel meta post, and this is about new raffle money that I'm sending out. So as you all know, for contributors, every item of you contribute to the show, you get a token, and then you get a chance to win a $100 raffle at the end of the month. Well, I'm going to start distributing these raffle prizes on base instead of on mainnet going forwards. And what I'm doing is basically sending out the prizes. So this kind of started a discussion back and forth with Rocket Fuel contributors, asking about like how easy it is to use and set up base. I guess they just never used it before, or maybe any layer 2 before, because it's the same right for every layer 2 pretty much. So I was just kind of explaining to people how, like, the same address you have on mainnet also works on layer 2, and how, you can just add it to your wallet, or a lot of wallets already have base integration now. And my TM here was saying it just works the same as Polygon, which is right. And then Ramana explained how addresses get generated, so he got a little bit technical there, which is pretty cool. And then people were like saying, like, WAC has chosen base, but are there any others that are better? And so I put a poll out about, like, which layer 2 would you like your RPL sent to? And 3 people, including myself, said base, and 4 people said Arbitrum, but nobody else really had anything to say about that. Drez just said whatever's easiest for WAC. So if you add whatever's easiest for WAC and then the 3 votes for base, we're just going to stick with base for now. I think Arbitrum would have been better, but the fees on base are just that much cheaper right now. I know that the Arbitrum have got another upgrade coming through today or tomorrow. I think today, actually, on Monday, the 18th. That will make their fees cheaper as well. But I already sent my RPL to base now, so it looks like we're going to go forward with base. But base has been amazing. Like, I sent out 10 transactions for people's rewards, and then I also sent all 10 people a little bit of ETH just to like play around. And those all those transactions cost me less than like 30 cents, I think, or 40 cents at most. So it's just absolutely amazing. When that would have cost $30 or $40 on Ethereum, if not more even, probably like $50 or $60. So that's been absolutely amazing to see. And then it's just really cool that everybody's kind of getting involved in this discussion about maybe adding liquidity to base, which Yoakum did, which was really cool of Yoakum to do that. But also, like, trying to figure things out as well, like bridging back and forward and like sending things to Coinbase, etc. So it's really cool that that's happened. So I'm really happy about that, and I think that this is going to work really well going forwards. But anyway, on that note, I want to say thank you all for watching and listening to Rocket Fuel and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all had lovely weekends, and I will see you all tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just letting you all know that there's a chance that I'll miss some episodes next week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I might try to record on one of those days, but I can't guarantee anything yet. I'm going to be traveling because it's spring break where I live, so we're going to be leaving home. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to record every day of those days. I'll try to record on at least one, but maybe 2. Anyway, thanks once again, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.